Welcome to Moonfall Inn. No matter what you've been through today, there is always a lamp lit for you here. Now, hand your weariness to me, and let us slowly enter tonight's story. Tonight, we read Norwegian Wood. Have you ever had that moment, in the middle of some noisy, ordinary day, when suddenly an old song plays, or a familiar smell drifts by, and in an instant, you are pulled back to some distant past the summer wind? The silent teenager. The person you will never see again. 20 years later, on an airplane, Toru Watanabe hears the Beatles' Norwegian Wood, and the touch of a woolen sweater suddenly returns to his fingertips. Memory collapses, and he is thrown back into that rainy, forested, tear-stained age of 20. Norwegian Wood is not a dramatic love story. It has no grand plot twists. It is simply about young people struggling in the mud of youth, in pain, in loss, and slowly, painfully, growing up. It is a mirror. It reflects the loneliness and confusion that each of us has felt. And hidden inside, there are answers about how to live. Before we enter the story, let's talk about the author, Haruki Murakami. You may know him as one of Japan's most famous writers. But you may not know that Norwegian Wood was actually an accidental success. Before he turned 30, Murakami never thought of becoming a writer. He and his wife ran a jazz bar, selling coffee by day, drinks by night. A quiet, unplanned life. Then, at 29, while watching a baseball game, the thought suddenly struck him, I want to write a novel. After the bar closed, he would sit at his kitchen table and, with an old typewriter, write his first book, Hear the Wind Sing. It won a Newcomer's Prize. Norwegian Wood was his third novel, written in 1978. Japan was in the middle of an economic bubble. Material wealth was growing, but young people were sinking into a spiritual confusion they had never known before. They could not find meaning in life. They felt lonely, empty, like islands drifting on the sea. Murakami said he did not want to write a love story. He wanted to write about the pain and the healing of adolescence. He poured into the book his love of jazz, the same music he played in his bar, and a deep nostalgia for lost youth. He once said, Norwegian Wood is a book for everyone, because we have all been young. We have all experienced loss and pain. And the Beatles song Norwegian Wood is not just the origin of the title. It is the soul of the book. That lazy, melancholic melody, it is like youth itself. Beautiful. And so easily broken. Now, let us follow Watanabe's memory. Back to Tokyo, 1969. To the story of him, Naoko, and Midori. Have you ever had a friend like that you don't need to talk? Just sitting together, you feel completely at ease. In high school, Watanabe had two such friends, Kazuki and Naoko. They were a fixed triangle. Kazuki was Watanabe's best friend. Naoko was Kazuki's girlfriend. The three of them would spend hours in Kazuki's study, listening to records, watching movies. Quiet. Peaceful. Watanabe said they felt like children forgotten by the world, hiding in their own small universe. But that peace was shattered when Kazuki was 17. One day, he and Watanabe had planned to go to the cinema. Instead, Kazuki went to his family's garage, connected a hose to the car exhaust, and killed himself. No note. No warning. Like a sudden summer storm that extinguishes all light. Can you imagine what Watanabe felt? That boy who skipped class with him, listened to jazz with him, shared secrets with him, suddenly gone. Watanabe did not cry. He did not collapse. He just felt that the whole world had become unreal. He wandered the streets aimlessly, walked into bar after bar, drank himself senseless. Not to forget, but just to feel something, anything, even pain. Naoko was even more shattered. Kazuki had been her whole world. His death tore her world apart. She became silent, her eyes empty, like a puppet whose strings had been cut. After high school, Watanabe moved to Tokyo for university. He wanted a fresh start in a new city. But then, on a Tokyo street, he saw Naoko again. The sunlight was beautiful that day. Naoko wore a white dress, standing under a cherry tree, her hair lifted by the wind. She looked just as gentle as before, but with a kind of fragile sadness he could not name. Watanabe's heart softened. He walked up to her. Long time no see. After that, they began to meet often. Every Saturday afternoon, they would walk along the streets of Tokyo, from dusk until late at night. Not talking much. Just walking. Watanabe knew that Naoko had not escaped the shadow of Kazuki's death. He wanted to be there for her. To let her know, you are not alone. And with his company, Naoko slowly found a little life again. She would talk about their high school days. About the jazz Kazuki loved. About the weather in Tokyo. But then, on Naoko's 20th birthday, everything changed again. That evening, they were walking in a park. Suddenly, Naoko held Watanabe and cried. She sobbed, tore from her chest. Why did Kazuki leave me? What did I do wrong? Watanabe held her tightly. He wanted to say something comforting, but he found that any words were useless. That night, they slept together. But the next morning, Naoko was gone. Only a note remained. I'm sorry. I need to be alone for a while. Watanabe searched for her like a madman. Called her dormitory, no answer. Went to her usual cafe, she was not there. Days turned into weeks of anxiety and helplessness. Then, a month later, he received a letter. Naoko had checked into a sanatorium deep in the mountains. It was called Amidu. A place for people with mental struggles, far from the noise of the city. A hidden paradise. Watanabe immediately took time off and rode a train for hours to see her. Amidu was nestled in a deep forest. Trees everywhere. The air was clean, so quiet you could hear birds and the rustle of leaves. Naoko wore the sanatorium's uniform. She looked calmer than before. But her eyes still carried that unshakable sadness. She told Watanabe, the people here are kind. There's a woman named Raiko who lives in the same building. Raiko was in her 40s. She had once been a brilliant pianist. In her youth, she was falsely accused of harassment by a student, and her spirit broke. She had lived in Amidu ever since. Raiko was gentle and wise. She saw Watanabe's true feelings for Naoko. And she saw Naoko's struggle. She often talked with Watanabe about music, about life, about the secrets you cannot tell anyone else. From then on, Watanabe visited Naoko every month. He brought her Tokyo magazines, the records she liked. He walked with her through the forest, listened to her talk about life at the sanatorium. And slowly, Naoko began to open her heart. She told Watanabe, "Kazuki's death made me feel like I was a discarded person. I am afraid of being abandoned again. So I cannot get close to anyone." Watanabe held her hand and said, "I will not leave you. Never." But just as Watanabe thought things were slowly getting better, Midori burst into his life. Midori was a classmate in Watanabe's literature faculty. A girl as vivid as the sun. Short hair. Big eyes. When she smiled, she showed two little fangs. She spoke directly, with a fearless energy. The first time they met was in class. Midori sat next to Watanabe and whispered, "Don't you think this professor is incredibly boring?" Watanabe was startled. Then he nodded. After that, Midori often found excuses to talk to him. She invited him to the library, to cafes, to the movies. Midori's world was completely different from Naoko's. Her home was full of the smell of life. Her father ran a small bookstore. Her mother had died young. Midori took care of her sick father and her little sister. She loved spicy food, rock music, running in the rain. And she loved telling Watanabe her wild, whimsical thoughts. Have you ever had this experience at your loneliest, most lost moment? Someone suddenly appears, like a beam of light, illuminating your dark life. That is what Midori was to Watanabe. With Naoko, Watanabe was always careful, afraid of touching her wounds. But with Midori, he could laugh freely. He could complain about life. He could be his truest, most unguarded self. Midori dragged him to vegetable markets. When he was sick, she made him hot miso soup. On the phone, she said, "I like you. Not because you are good, but because when I am with you, I feel that I am good." Watanabe was torn. He loved Naoko. He felt sorry for her fragility. He had promised to stay with her. But he was also drawn to Midori's vitality. He longed for that real, living, breathing life. He stood at a crossroads. One path led into a dark forest. The other led into bright sunlight. He did not know which way to go. He told Raiko about his struggle. Raiko listened, then told him her own story. "When I was young," she said, "I was also trapped. I loved one person, but I was moved by another's kindness. Then I understood, love is not a multiple choice question. Love is your deepest, truest desire. Naoko needs treatment. But you need to live. You cannot spend your whole life trying to save someone who is destined to walk into darkness." Watanabe did not fully understand. He still visited Naoko every month. But Naoko's condition grew worse. She began to have insomnia, hallucinations. She would sit alone in the forest for hours, saying she could hear Kazuki's voice. Watanabe was terrified. He was afraid that Naoko would leave him the same way Kazuki did. But what was meant to come, came. That winter, Watanabe received a call from Amidu. Naoko had killed herself. On a snowy night, wearing the sweater Watanabe had given her, she walked deep into the forest and hanged herself. Like Kizuki. No note. No warning. Watanabe's world collapsed completely. He quit his part-time job, turned off his phone, threw a backpack over his shoulder and began a journey of aimless wandering. He traveled from Tokyo all the way north, to Hokkaido. He walked every day, from early morning until late at night. Too tired to think. He did not want to talk. Did not want to see anyone. He just wanted the physical exhaustion to drown the pain inside. He felt like a failure. He could not save Kizuki. He could not save Naoko. He could not even handle his own feelings. On the coast of Hokkaido, he met an old fisherman. The fisherman saw how broken he was and invited him to his home for a meal. The fisherman's wife made a hot seafood porridge. The old man said, "Young man, when I was young, I also lost someone very important. Back then, I thought the sky had fallen. I thought, what is the point of living? But later, I understood, living itself is the meaning. The people you lose become stars in the sky, watching over you. You must carry their hope and live well." That night, Watanabe sat by the sea. He listened to the waves. He thought of Kizuki's smile, of Naoko standing under the cherry tree, of Midori running in the rain. Suddenly, he understood. The deaths of Kizuki and Naoko were not his fault. His responsibility was not to save anyone. It was to live well, to carry their memories and live fully. He called Raiko. When the call connected, Watanabe heard Raiko's gentle voice, slightly choked. And then he cried. Not a tearing cry, but the cry of someone finally putting down a heavy weight. A cry of relief, of release. "Raiko-san," he said, "I understand now. I want to live well." Raiko was silent for a long moment. Then she said softly, "Watanabe-kun, I knew you would understand." Naoko left very peacefully. She left a diary. It was filled with thanks to you. She wrote that after meeting you, she finally knew that there was someone in this world who would treat her so gently. In her last entry, she wrote, "The forest is dark, and I cannot walk anymore. But Watanabe-kun's light, I will carry it with me. I hope he lives well. Do not be sad for me." Watanabe held the phone, tears streaming. He finally understood, Naoko's leaving was not his failure. It was her choice to find peace. And all he could do, was carry that light and walk on. When he returned to Tokyo, the first thing Watanabe did was go to find Midori. He did not know if she would forgive him. During that dark period, because of Naoko's illness and Kizuki's shadow, he had been hot and cold with Midori. He had broken promises. Disappeared. He walked to the front of Midori's family bookshop. She was squatting by the door, watering a potted plant. The sunlight fell on her short hair, like a layer of gold. Watanabe gathered his courage and walked up. "Midori. I'm back." Midori looked up. When she saw him, her eyes turned red instantly. She did not scold him, did not question him. She just threw herself into his arms, beat his back with her fists, and cried, "Where did you go? I thought you didn't want me anymore." She was so alive, so full of the warmth of ordinary life. Watanabe held her tightly. "I'm sorry, Midori. I will never leave you again." Midori lifted her head, wiped her tears, showed her little tiger fang smile, and said, "Then you have to promise me, no matter what happens, you tell me. No more carrying everything alone." Watanabe nodded. Looking into her bright eyes, it was like seeing the sun that chases away all darkness. The story seems to end there. Watanabe lost Kazuki and Naoko, but he gained Midori's love and Raiko's companionship. He walked through the pain and confusion of youth, and finally learned to make peace with loneliness, and to make peace with life. As Murakami wrote in the book, everyone has their own forest. Maybe we have never been there, but it is always there. Always. Those who get lost, stay lost. Those who meet again, will meet again. Have you ever had a moment like this after great pain? Suddenly, in some ordinary scene, you find healing for Watanabe. That moment was the night on the Hokkaido coast. Imagine the scene. Winter. The sea wind cutting to the bone. Waves crashing on the beach with a dull roar. Watanabe, in a thin coat, sitting on a cold rock. Hair blown wild. Dried tears on his face. He felt like a fallen leaf, not knowing where to drift. Then the old fisherman handed him a bowl of hot seafood porridge. The warmth passed through the bowl into his hands, and deep into his heart. The fisherman said, "Young man, the people you lose never truly leave. They become the wind, the rain, everything around you. They are always with you." In that moment, Watanabe broke down. He held his knees and cried like a child. He cried for Kazuki's sudden departure. He cried for Naoko's fragile helplessness. He cried for his own powerlessness. He cried for a long, long time, until his tears ran dry, until the sky turned pale by the sea. When the first ray of sunlight touched the water, the sea sparkled, as if covered with crushed gold. Watanabe looked up at the horizon. Suddenly, the heavy stone in his heart began to lift. He remembered Kazuki once saying, "Watanabe, it's so good to be alive. To listen to jazz. To watch movies with you." He remembered Naoko's smile under the cherry tree. Midori running in the rain. Raiko's gentle profile at the piano. Suddenly, he understood. The pain of youth is not meant to be escaped. It is meant to be grown through. The people we lose are not meant to be forgotten. They are meant to be remembered. Loneliness is not forever. Love and companionship are. Despair is not the end. Rebirth is. That moment, Watanabe's turning point from despair to release, is the most touching part of the entire book. Because it shows us, no matter how deep the pain, no matter how dark the confusion, there will always be a light that finds you. There will always be someone who gives you warmth and strength when you need it most. Just like in your own life. You may have experienced the pain of loss, the confusion of loneliness, the agony of a difficult choice. You may have felt, like Watanabe, that the sky has fallen, that life has no meaning. But please believe, what does not break you will make you stronger. What makes you cry will teach you to cherish. Pain is not the whole of life. Warmth and hope are what keep us walking. Norwegian Wood appears to be a story of youth, love, and death. But beneath the surface, it holds three deep truths about life. Truths worth thinking about. First truth, loneliness is the background of youth, but connection heals loneliness. Have you noticed everyone in this book is lonely? Naoko's loneliness was the unspeakable pain of losing Kazuki, the fear of being abandoned again. Watanabe's loneliness was the feeling of being out of step with the world, the helplessness of facing loss. Midori's loneliness was the weight of her mother's early death and her father's illness, a longing for love, but a fear of giving it. Even Raiko carried the wound of being falsely accused, healing herself in solitude. Youth is a lonely journey. Each of us is like an island, separated by a vast sea, longing to connect with others. But loneliness is not the enemy. The enemy is being so afraid of loneliness that you close yourself off. Naoko's tragedy was that she trapped herself in the shadow of Kazuki's death. She could not accept Watanabe's love. She could not step out of her lonely forest. Watanabe's growth was that he finally understood, loneliness does not mean the world has abandoned you. It means you have not yet learned to embrace the world. Why did Midori heal Watanabe? Because she was never afraid of loneliness. She used her active love and vivid energy to break through the walls. She dragged him to the market, shared the small details of life, said I like you. That real connection showed Watanabe that loneliness is not forever. As long as you are willing to open your heart, someone will walk into your world. Just like in your life. You may often feel lonely, working late, misunderstood, facing hardship alone. But remember, loneliness is normal. Connection is the cure. A warm hug, a sincere word of care, an honest conversation. All of these can melt the ice of loneliness. Do not close yourself off because you are afraid of getting hurt. Only by daring to love, daring to connect, can you truly heal loneliness. Second truth, loss is not the end. Memory is eternal companionship. Watanabe lost two of the most important people in his life, Kazuki and Naoko. He once thought that loss was a final goodbye, an unfillable hole in his life. But later, he realized, the people we lose live on, in another way. They live in our memories. In our lives. Kazuki's jazz. Naoko's white dress. These memories became stars that lit up Watanabe's path. He carried them with him. He learned to cherish the present. To love Midori well. As Raiko said, memories do not disappear. They become part of you. They carry you forward. Have you lost someone important? A family member? A friend? A lover? You may have been like Watanabe, drowning in pain, feeling that life had lost its color. But please believe, loss is not the end. Forgetting is. As long as you remember them, they never truly leave. Their love for you, their hopes for you, they become your strength. They walk with you. Naoko taught Watanabe gentleness and kindness. Kazuki taught him sincerity and companionship. These qualities stayed with Watanabe for life. They can stay with us, too. So do not be afraid of loss. Learn to carry memories forward. Turn the pain of loss into the nourishment of growth. Another truth: the meaning of living is to truly feel every single moment. In this book, Murakami uses so many small details to tell us what living means. Walking with Naoko through the Tokyo streets at dusk. Running in the rain with Midori, laughing. Listening to Reiko play the piano in the quiet of Amidu. Drinking that bowl of hot porridge on the Hokkaido coast. The meaning of life is never about grand goals. It is not about wealth or fame. It is about truly feeling every ordinary moment. Feeling the warmth of sunlight, the coolness of rain, the sweetness of love, the rawness of pain. Why did Naoko walk toward death? Because she could no longer feel the beauty of life. She was trapped by past pain, unable to see the sunlight of the present. Why did Midori live so vividly? Because she treasured every moment. She loved the small, messy details of life. She found joy in ordinary days. Watanabe's growth was his shift from escaping feeling, to actively feeling. He used to drink and wander to escape the pain. Then he learned, pain is also part of life. Only by bravely feeling the pain can you truly know the value of joy. Have you ever been so busy that you missed the scenery around you, so anxious that you forgot to enjoy the present, so afraid of pain that you hid from real emotions? Remember, the meaning of living is to feel. To feel joy and sorrow. To feel laughter and tears. To feel the sweet and the bitter of life. Only by truly feeling every moment can you truly know the value of being alive. As Murakami wrote, death is not the opposite of life. It exists as a part of life, forever. Because death exists, life becomes precious. Because loss hurts, we learn to treasure what we have. Being alive, that itself is the meaning. Living fully, honestly, feelingly, that is the greatest respect you can give to life. Dear friend, the story of Norwegian Wood ends here. But the pain and healing of youth, the loneliness and growth, they never end. This book is a mirror. It reflects the youth that each of us has lived. That confused, brave, fragile, strong self. The self that wept over loss. That threw itself into love without fear. That was anxious about the future. We have all, at some point, been like Naoko, trapped in a lonely forest, unable to find the way out. We have all been like Watanabe, standing at a crossroads, not knowing which way to go. And we have all been like Midori, in our own way, trying hard to love life, to chase after love. Youth is exactly this kind of painful journey. We learn to grow through loss. We learn to be strong through loneliness. We find direction through confusion. We meet many people. Some walk with us for a while, then wave goodbye. Some stay by our side and become the light of our lives. No matter what you go through, remember, loneliness is not scary. Loss is not scary. Confusion is not scary. What matters is that you bravely face your own heart. Bravely feel everything life gives you. Bravely live, fully, truly, well. Finally, I want to ask you, in your youth, was there a person who taught you what love and loss mean? Was there an experience that led you from confusion to clarity? Welcome to share your story in the comments. As you fall asleep after finishing this book tonight, may you make peace with your own loneliness. May you shake hands with the pain of life. May you no longer lose your way in the forest of your life. May you find your own light. And may you carry love and memory, and live, earnestly, passionately, fully. Good night.